Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Why I Love Twin Peaks. And of course, I'm still learning as I go along why I love it. And I learn a lot through the guests I have as well. So it's been very nice all round. Yeah. So this time round, I'd like to introduce my next guest who's joining me. And she's all the way from sunny Australia. It's none other than Millie. How are you, Millie?
I'm well, thank you. Well, thank you. Sorry, that's really anticlimactic. Probably should have said g'day.
Yeah.
G'day, everyone. G'day,
Hello,
Frank.
Millie.
How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you. Yeah. Right,
Good.
Millie, the first question, which I always ask everyone on here, is when did you first discover Twin Peaks?
So when it first aired here in Australia, so I was 13, I reckon, or maybe almost 13. So that's too many years ago to even consider contemplating. Long time ago. And I think too, like I was just coming into that adolescence. The who am I? Oh, what's this show? Yeah.
And what was your first, I mean, how were you aware of it at that time? Was it advertised quite a lot, leading up to it? How did you sort of discover it? Was it by accident or
Yeah,
you
it
just channel
probably was
flicking
just
or,
yeah, probably.
yeah.
And just the music straight away. And I really loved the environment and the weird characters and, the mystery around Laura, who was this hot blonde girl. And yeah, and I don't think I'd ever, I don't know, she was just really attractive and probably for every young girl, even though she didn't have a very good outcome in life, probably wanted to be Laura a little bit. Yeah.
I um I want to ask you, so when you did start watching it, were you pretty much like that was it? You were hooked. You were there for the whole thing, journey. You didn't miss
Oh,
an
yeah.
episode.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I tell people I'm not a very big crier, but I remember getting my mum to record, like if I was going to miss the episodes. I don't know if they were on a Tuesday night, but I think that was also the year that I joined my first cover band here in my small town. Um, yeah, I can't even remember what the band was called, to be fair, Frank. But yeah, I think we might have had band practice on like a Tuesday night, and I remember asking mum to record it. I feel like it was the episode where Josie shot Cooper. And so I didn't know that had happened until like many years later when I got the VHS. Well, maybe not many years, but like at least a couple of years later. Yes, I hadn't seen that episode. But yeah, she forgot. And I cried and I cried and I cried. Yep. So yeah, I was hooked.
Um, did you get the Secret Diary of Laura Palmer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, at the age we were at, um, that was a heavy, quite a heavy read. Parts of
I
it.
don't think I I don't think I got it that year.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. No, I would have been a bit older.
You'd have been about, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You
I
didn't get
think
it at the time.
the first book I got was Agent Cooper's My Life, My Tapes or
Oh,
whatever it was.
yeah.
Now I've still got it.
I
Yeah.
I had that. It's actually a bit more difficult to find now, I think. I did have it on the paperback version of it, and with him with the recorder in his hat on the front of it,
Yeah,
and
that's
then
one
and
I've
then
got.
the Secret Diary of Laura. I had the original. Over here, it came out. The publishers were called Penguin over here. That's quite a big publishing company over here, and they were released under the Penguin banner, and or Puffin. No, Penguin, I think, yeah. And so I had they were paperbacks, and I had Laura Palmer's one, but it had a different cover on it. I can't remember what the cover was now. What was the? Can you remember
I
what?
think there was one where it was like her reflection. Oh no, I might be thinking of Fire Walk With Me cover.
Yeah,
I don't know actually. I've got the one of her prom photo.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a
Mm.
reprint that came out, and it was a red one that looked like it looked like the red leather bound bit
Yeah.
of a diary on the front, and her picture kind of I think it was a prom queen picture on it or
Oh,
something.
off to the side.
Yeah, that was a later reprint. That's the because I lost the original one in transit. I was moving house and stuff around, a few times, and I lost the original paperback, which was a different picture on it completely. Um, and so then years later, when the reprint came out, um, it was that red cover, the red kind of diary look cover on it, and that's the one I got now. So long story, but yeah. Um, but
Yeah,
I haven't got the Cooper one anymore. I actually that book was great.
yeah.
I loved reading about him as a young man, a young guy, and with his big tape recorder, and he could only he could only go so far outside the house with the long cord on it before it stopped, And it was just him talking away, it's getting some of the thoughts from his head was fascinating, I thought.
Yeah.
You know, you can see where he was gonna excel, even at a young age. You can see him already being a detective in his young life. He was doing little investigations as a young kid and all that kind of thing. Little bit, it was a bit of Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew type thing going on. Um, but it was really good. Yeah, I loved it, and I love Laura Palmer's book was amazing. Very, very in places incredibly heavy stuff.
Well, I think I was probably young enough that I didn't understand how heavy the heavy stuff was. And then as you get a bit older, you're like, wow, that's pretty dark. And then the older you get, the darker it sort of becomes. Like, I've been, speaking of that Welcome to Twin Peaks sign, I've been watching people that do gematria. Do you know anything about that? Like coding and things? It's pretty wild. And I think someone has done one on Twin Peaks because there's this repetitive number thing. And someone actually said that the population number, and I can't remember what the theory is, look it up, do your research, but that population number might not actually be a mistake, that it actually is a code. Do 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 do.
No, that's the first I've heard of that, Millie. I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
So there you are. I want to know more
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, there you go.
You got me
What's it
intrigued.
all mean?
Also, they never changed that population sign.
Yeah,
You notice that all the way through the series because had Laura died,
yeah,
it would have been down to 200.
yeah,
51,200. And then by
yeah,
the end of it, loads of people were dying, weren't they?
that's right.
Getting bumped off and murdered and all sorts. So that population, God knows how many were left by the end of it. Yeah,
Well, today.
it did get a bit crazy. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, and in season three as well. You know, they were being wiped out all over the place there as well. But
I still can't, and look, I know everybody talks about it, but just episode 8, I still can't even really put that into words. It was just cool, even though, like in hindsight, maybe season 3 didn't give us everything of what we want. Like we've all got our own little gripes about it. I know we do. Um, just getting to experience that for the first time. We got 2 seasons. Did you watch it when it first came out, Frank, or were you a little bit later in the game, or?
what the original one? You mean
Yeah, the
the
original.
original? Oh yeah, I did watch it. Yeah, um,
Yeah,
all the way through really. We I'm always a bit vague about when I actually saw it. I mean when it was actually broadcast. Because but I've been reliably informed since. Just my memory is a bit hazy. But I have found out that we got it in the fall over here of 1990. So it would have been probably about October time, I think. In the States, of course, it started in April. That was they got that was the original date everyone remembers. So yeah, we were 6 months or so later, and
mhm.
I watched it right through. I think there was a gap around for a few weeks at Christmas, and then season two started early the following year over here.
Yeah.
and it was on the sister channel, the BBC television we have here. But but back then we had two BBC TV channels. So BBC One was the main flagship one, and BBC Two was the sister channel, which got less viewers, and it was shown on BBC Two. It didn't get the Premier channel, uh, you know, uh, broadcasting. It was on BBC Two, so the figures would have been lower for it anyway,
Yeah.
regardless of
Yeah, I
how
can't
good it
remember what
was.
channel.
Yeah,
I
I
can't
don't know what
remember
you
what
have,
night
how
that
you
went
where you
on.
would with ABC or something over there. I don't know what you have on.
Oh, it wouldn't be ABC, I
No.
don't think. It probably would have been Channel 9,
Yeah.
maybe, or something like that. I think it was, could have been winter. I kind of have recollection of laying in front of the heater and watching it, but I could have also been watching it on VHS. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, so the point I was making is that, like, that excitement of having to wait for the next episode, and then, retrospectively looking back and feeling quite lucky that we were of that generation that were watching it as it was fresh. And then, season 3 came out, and you got a lot of people in the community saying, "Oh, I've now got my friend watching it for the first time." You're like, "Oh, imagine watching it for the first time again. How cool would that be?" And that all those years later, Frank, we got to do that again with season 3. Love it or hate it, that ride was pretty cool. But episode 8, I remember I'd come home from work. I think I might have, I know I took leave for the first couple of episodes. Like, I actually put on my reason for leave that Twin Peaks was returning and I must be home to watch this. But yeah, I remember coming home and episode 8 was on, and I was sitting on the floor getting ready to just, like, getting the channel going. And then I just didn't move. And at the end of it, I was like, oh, all rigid and, yeah, hunched over and hobbling because I just hadn't moved for that whole episode. But that, particularly the mother in the space and the plasma and the yeah, the bomb, and just amazing. Yeah, that was so cool.
Yeah, that episode was crazy. And I just watched
Yeah.
it recently again. Because I hadn't watched it for a couple of years or so. I just drifted. I drifted away a bit and didn't really watch any of the season 3 after the initial first time round. I mean, I watched them a few times when they first came out, but then I had a long gap and didn't watch any. And I just I watched it. I watched part 8 a few months ago, and then I just watched it in the last couple of days again, and put my earphones on and just wanted to concentrate solely on it, because I'm sure I missed things before, didn't pick up on the subtleties of it, and particularly when the camera goes into the mushroom cloud, and it just goes crazy at that point.
Mm-hmm. And
Everything
it's a
is
bit
thrown at you
shrieky
visually,
and,
and
yeah,
I think
yeah,
it was really like Lynch's greatest hits at that point. I think he was
yeah,
throwing everything that he'd done previously into that. I can
yeah.
see elements of all different things from his early experimental films. I can see visuals
Mm-hmm.
in there. There's all sorts of callbacks to his earlier work in there, an awful lot. Um,
Yeah.
you
Oh, the
know,
giant in the theatre. Sorry, the fireman in the
yeah,
theatre.
yeah,
All of that, just so
yeah, it
beautiful.
was.
Yeah. And then even really, I think there was just a lot of feeling quite perplexed when it was all going on. But, all of I don't know, is it the White Lodge, or where it's all purple? Is that the White Lodge?
Some people call
Whatever. But
it,
even that,
yeah, some people
beautiful.
call it the purple zone or something.
Yeah.
I think for all intents and purposes, it is the White Lodge. I think that what's going on there is a force for good, isn't it? It seems that way.
Mm-hmm.
The giant is a good person. Senorita Dido is a good person. Particularly where she kisses the orb with Laura on it and sends her on her way and all that kind of thing. I think they're the good side of things. It's it well it appears to me anyway that way, and that they're kind of guiding people along and giving them help and information because people swing by there a few times. You've got Andy that gets thrown in there at one point, and he's showing him all things that are going on and warning him about the Cooper thing, the bad Cooper, and uh, and the shooting and all that stuff going on. So he's prepared for it before it happens, and so it's interesting. Yeah, and that world was really fascinating, wasn't it? The White Lodge world, the Purple Sea, and the the build, the where the thing is, it's right on the top of this huge rock. This sort of I can't describe that building that they're in. It's like a
Yeah,
kind of castle, but not quite, if you know what I mean.
it's almost like a sandcastle, or
Yeah,
yeah, like it's very structural and very like it's very everything's very Art Deco-y kind of. I
yeah.
don't know. It's just cool.
And all in
Yeah.
black, and it's all black and white world when you go
Mm,
inside it, I mean, they're all in black and white. So let's juxtaposition the different of color and then the black and white. Because when the giant goes floating up in the air and releases that energy, it's all gold, isn't it? And he's black
yeah.
and white, but that's a gold.
What does it all mean? That's what I want to know. I'm sure it means something.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But yeah, well, I don't know what. Yeah, whatever it was, it was. Um, it. Wow, it was an amazing episode. There, I can't.
Yeah.
Again, you're right. It's very difficult to put into words how you feel about.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was moments like that throughout season three. There was moments towards the end that I just found myself growing very terribly impatient, and maybe that's my character flaw. But all the time that Carrie Page and Cooper spend in the car saying nothing, why the torture? Why? Oh, and I just really wanted to see more Sarah. I think it's a shame that Leland wasn't there and that they couldn't write him back into it in a more meaningful way. But I really wanted to know what was going on with Sarah. What was the whole purpose? What are they returning Laura for? Yeah. And then all this time was just, yeah, that was a deliberate act of torture, I think. Yeah.
It was a shame that Sarah couldn't find any kind of happiness in her life
Yeah.
after all those years of after Laura died and everything. That all those years later, she was still haunted by that so much.
Yeah.
Couldn't move on. Was on the bottle, on the drink heavily and everything. Um, yeah, it was terribly sad. Um,
Yeah. And I just love that I love the mystery around that family. I love the idea that Sarah's also got something going on with her, and we never really. I mean, well, obviously she does. She slashed that man's face off, but yeah, we never really got to figure that out. Or maybe it is all there for us, and I'm just not bright. Maybe I'm not bright enough to figure it out. I don't know. But yeah, just even that we got to experience it as it was happening, and yeah, that was amazing. And I think it was episode by episode, so you couldn't binge watch it. You had to wait, and that was lovely too. So, you got sort of the nostalgia of some of your old actors coming back, and some of the music and the lighting and the vibe and the town. But then you also got the nostalgia of being your own adolescent, waiting for the next episode of Twin Peaks all those years ago. So yeah, it was very cool.
yeah, I like the fact that they did it weekly. Apart from a few episodes, I think they released a few
Yeah, I think the
the
first two
first one they
came out
released about the
together.
first four, didn't they? I think, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. They did too.
And
Yeah.
then it was every week. But I liked that. I did like the weekly thing again because
Yeah.
I kind of missed that.
Yeah.
The week so you could talk for the whole week about the thing, and that before the next one came along. I think, and because something like Twin Peaks lends itself well to that because there's an awful lot to talk about. You're
Yeah.
dissecting it, you're theorizing, you're going, well, what did that mean? And and you're coming out with you're both sharing each other's ideas about stuff and what can this mean and and all that.
So
And so I think that week to digest and
mm,
give it
and hope
what
if
yeah,
tortured. Yeah.
it works
So
really well.
when it first came out, Frank, did you have friends that also watched the show, the
No, I didn't have
original?
it. I didn't know anyone
No,
really.
neither. So there was no, oh, who do you think killed Laura, or what's going on with
No,
this guy, or
I didn't know
no.
any
And
of that.
I didn't even know that there was a community until I
No.
got the gold box collector's edition. and it had all of the postcards in the back and stuff from the Twin Peaks Fest. I was like, there's other people that like Twin Peaks.
Yeah, that's pretty. I think that was pretty much the first time I even was aware of it.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, I had no
I
idea.
didn't really.
And
I
then,
wasn't. Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't
mhm,
get. I mean, I wasn't aware of. I wasn't aware of. Back then, I wasn't aware of things like Wrapped in Plastic magazine, or I didn't
no,
know anything about that until much
no.
later after the fact. At the
And I didn't
time,
even realize that there were groups on Facebook
no,
and things like, and not because you never used to search for things like that. When you
no.
first had Facebook, you believed that you were only really talking to your close friends or whatever, but you weren't. You were talking to the world. And I think I posted, they weren't super great back then, but I made a Shelley doll holding a piece of cherry pie. And yeah, she reposted it for Happy Pie Day or whatever. And then all these people were commenting. And then I went, oh, and there's still people out there that love Twin Peaks. So yeah, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, so the advent of well, not quite the advent of social media, but the early sort of earlyish days of it was when I kind of like discovered that there was more than there was a few more people out there, that like it, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yeah.
and so that changed an awful lot of things for me,
Yeah.
you
And
know.
I think when they announced season three was happening, then that kind of just blew up all of a sudden. All Twin Peaks fans were finding every other Twin Peaks fan and, sort of doing a proverbial jumping up and down kind of motion together over the interwebs. But yeah, that was cool too. And then it was happening and yeah. And then that they came to Australia too. That just blows my mind.
Did you get
Yeah.
to see them? Did you
I
guys know?
did.
You
I never
did.
thought, never thought. Obviously,
Brilliant.
like, yeah, I bought the gold box edition. I knew that people were going to these fests. I don't leave home very often, Frank. So the chances of me ever going over to America, as tempting as it may have been at some point, are very slim. It's not just around the corner, that's for sure. So anyway, just never thought that that would happen. And then they announced that must have been 2018, 19, I guess. 18 maybe. Yeah, so that was cool. So I met Cheryl Lee. That was I was really nervous. There were people in front of me that were more nervous than me, and I had a doll to give her, and I'd spent the whole week before making sure every hair was perfect. And yeah, I gave it to her, and we got the photo of it. There's a photo of me, Dana, and Cheryl Lee standing together, and I look like their child if they had a child when, well, Laura Palmer was 12, if she had a child then, because there's not that much of an age gap. But yeah, I look like a very old child. If I could be a cousin, I'm not too sure. Yeah. So met Kimmy, um, Michael Horse, Sabrina Sutherland. And I've got to say, I was very nervous walking up to Sabrina, and she's lovely. She's like a normal person. Yeah, I expected her to be really sharp with me, and you go put that over there. And because I brought her, I made the doll of her prior to knowing that they were coming to Australia. I made her as the casino worker, Jackie, I think that character's name was. Yeah. So I gave that to her, and she said, "Oh, I've shown David, and he just can't believe it." And I was like, "Oh, what? That's very cool." And I actually got to talk to David on that event. Yeah, not like sit down and have a
No.
coffee and whatever, but he zoomed in
Yeah.
and some audience questions were selected. So I got to get up and ask him a question. I think I made a joke about needle felting, but what I was really asking was, is there any medium that as an artist hasn't worked with that he would like to? And he said that he was wanting to learn how to sew. So
Oh,
that was cool.
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like I say, this 13-year-old person in this small town in Australia, a million miles away from the Pacific Northwest. And yeah, here I am on a Zoom talking to David. And meanwhile, I've got Michael Horse behind me trying to get my attention because he really wanted a hawk doll, which he got. So yeah, that was
Yeah,
cool. Yeah.
that's
And
awesome. Yeah.
our Strobel was there, and I think
Yeah.
he had a heart attack that night.
Yeah, I did hear
Yeah.
that he, yeah. I did hear
Yeah,
he
and
fell ill at one point there. Yeah,
he did look a little bit poorly, you know, and sometimes you can tell that people aren't well. Their eyes are very watery, and he was
yeah,
quite watery. But he said to me, "I'm the elder of your tribe," you know, and I
yeah.
just said, "Yeah, you are, you are." Yeah, so that was lovely.
He's great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So that was a very cool event, and Cheryl Lee came up and said that the doll I gave her was the nicest gift that anyone has ever given her. I highly doubt it, but thank you for the compliment. She's lovely.
that's great. That's lovely though, isn't it? That you got the opportunity
Yeah.
to give them those things in person. That's really nice. Yeah,
Yeah, and I took my son with me, and he really loved Kimmy. He thought Kimmy was the funniest person
yeah.
he'd ever laid eyes
She
on.
is funny. Yeah, she's
Yeah,
really
he
funny.
loved her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's funny. Yeah, I was nervous meeting her. I was just nervous meeting everybody, I think, because you just feel like. And prior to that, I'd met Christabel um, and Rebecca in Tassie. They came down for in Tasmania they do a festival called Dark Mofo Festival. Um, it's all very dark, shall we say? Yeah, and yeah, they came and performed there, and Christabel was really good to watch live. Like I don't really particularly dig her music, like I wouldn't probably buy a CD, but watching her live, yeah, yeah, all those poor single men in the audience trying to contain themselves. That must have been hard. Yeah, she did the pink room. Oh, it's the most attractive thing I've ever seen. Yeah, yeah, she's gorgeous. Mm-hmm.
I've seen her a number of times in concert actually. Yeah, when she's come to
Yeah,
London and that, a few times.
yeah, it's
And then
odd.
she
She's
did.
beautiful to watch
Yeah,
live.
she is. She's very striking. She's
Yeah,
very visually striking.
yeah,
And draws you into the performance. Her voice draws you in as well.
yeah,
Yeah, she's interesting character, that lady.
yeah. She's
She's
mesmerizing.
quite she's quite I think the word eccentric is probably the wrong word, but she does seem to be quite otherworldly a
Yeah,
bit. You know,
yes.
when you
Well, didn't
even when
David
you
say that
even
she's
when you
an
get to speak
alien
to
or
her,
something?
she's all very kind of it's very hard to describe. It's
Mm-hmm.
very much of a in another world, really, or
My,
from another world. I'm
my
not sure which.
my dog's growling. It's not my stomach. I have eaten. It's okay. I
Oh,
don't know what she's growling at. But anyway, just so
that's
this no
yeah,
confusion.
yeah. So so yeah, all fascinating. Yeah, at least you got to see. I'm very pleased that you got to see some of the Twin Peaks people, in
Yeah.
person.
Oh, look, that was a great couple of years.
Yeah,
Like just, the people that I was able to give dolls to and connect with, like Eamon Farron and well, just all of them really. David Lynch has got a doll of himself. I don't know where it's sitting. I hope he kept it and that he loves it. Yeah, Jen Lynch and yeah, lots of the other cast and some of the crew bought dolls that they did makeup on or whatever. Yeah, it was just a very cool couple of years, and we're all riding the waves of it. I think in our own little way. You guys with your podcast, me with the dolls. Mm-hmm. Do you want to see some dolls, Frank? The ones I've got left.
I that was going to be my next question, Millie. Funny enough, can you please show some
Mm-hmm.
of your wonderful work? Yeah,
So I've
we're all
got
dying to
four
see
that
it.
I've decided that I'm never going to give away.
All right.
Um,
Okay.
I have to kind of do this in a
I think I
somewhat
have a
of a.
feeling one of them that I don't think you'd ever part with. I
I have
think
to do this
I
in
can
like a
guess.
scene. Hang on. Oh, I cannot make him. Yep, there he goes again,
Yeah,
ruining
very
that
good.
too. Yeah, so I'm keeping. I don't know that grief-stricken moment. That's kind of terrible. And this is one that I'll probably never part with. That's prom Laura. I had to guess with the dress because I couldn't find an actual photo of her in her dress, but that's Laura at the prom. Oh, he's dropped his fishing rod. And definitely we'll never get rid of this guy. He's just going fishing.
That's a really good one. Yeah.
Yeah, I love him. Anyway, so Pete has to stay. And then, yeah, as I was saying, I've closed my Etsy down. So these are all the guys that never went anywhere on Etsy. And some of them I've never posted on Etsy. They're just dolls that I've made for like little videos and or just photos that I wanted to take. So there's Train Car Laura looking a little bit worse for wear there. Still hot though. And then I made this, the angel for the train car video as well. So she might go on top of the Christmas tree this year. I don't know. Now I have to show these guys together too. Chantel and Hutch.
After the massacre, yeah, they will be they're full of holes. They've been full of lead, yeah.
Oh, Albert.
Albert, oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Oh, well, we all know this lady, Frank. Beulah. Can't really see her face very well.
It's a world of truck drivers.
And I really should give that to Kathleen because I'm sure she'd love it. Nadine. She did have a shovel. I don't know where her shovel went. Oh, this I just made for a video thing, but that's Diane in her PJs. The ever hypnotic Tammy Preston. Oh. Depending which name you want to give her.
Is the question is it Tremond or
Chalfont?
Where is Pierre?
I had Pierre. Someone bought Pierre.
Ah.
Oh, I kind of love this one. Oh, her hair's coming off. Blackie. This should terrify everybody. Her horns are broken, but you can see I've put her hands on backwards.
Judy. Yeah.
Old Sarah that I did for a video. It's very bright. It's old Sarah. Young Sarah.
Yeah, great. You got her likeness amazingly well. Yeah.
Lucy's dropped her gun. And everyone's favourite, Fire Walk With Me, Laura, when she's in her bed. Yeah. Getting ready to leave. Yeah. So that's what I've got left. I've still got like other bits and pieces sort of floating around. I've still got the Palmer house, as I said, and yeah. And that's what's left of the gang. Everybody else has gone and found a new home.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I'm glad they got good homes. I hope they got good homes. Yeah.
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 Yeah,
amazing work, Millie. Really.
I wonder what people think when they go for a visit and they walk in and there's like
yeah, what's those things? Staring at me.
Shelf there, love. Yeah. Yeah.
No, they really are amazingly done. Very well made. You know, they're great. They really are.
Yeah.
Really creative.
Look, and it was therapeutic at the time too. Like I was really loving Twin Peaks and watching Twin Peaks all the time, and then, you know, just sort of coming home from work and wanting to unwind a bit, and then yeah, people were interested, and look, probably still would be if I was still making and posting, but you have to step away from things sometimes just to have a breather and to reappreciate, and yeah. There's only so many dolls you can make too. I think I would have made at least 50% of all of the cast, including season 3. So my goal was to make every single one and keep every single one, and then I thought be realistic. Yeah. Well, there's still time.
I've got to ask you actually, because I don't think I've asked anyone this yet at the moment. Did you see Dual Spires?
Did I what?
Did you see Dual Spires?
Is that a TV show?
It was an episode of a series called Psych, and
Oh,
they did which I hadn't heard of at that I didn't know what the hell Psych was. It's an American show. Um, but they did one episode. I think it was about 2010 it came out, 2010, um, which was a tribute to Twin Peaks. And so they go to a place called Dual Spires, it's a spin on Twin Peaks, and they bump into these eccentric characters who happen to be played by a number of the Twin Peaks cast. So you've got Sherilyn Fenn in it, you've got Cheryl Lee in it, you've got Lynn Ray Wise in it playing a priest. You've got they're flipped on their head, they're playing different characters. Um, you've got Catherine Coulson in it. You've got Lenny Von Dolan playing the sheriff. You've got Dana Ashbrook in it, I think. It was unbelievable. They quite a few, you know, and it was about a murder of a girl again that gets washed up on the beach and all this, but it was this kind of comedy show. It's slightly comedic, and all these characters are really suspicious, and they were kind of sending themselves up a bit, and it was all really in good spirits. I was just curious whether you'd seen it. You obviously haven't, but you know, you might want to look out for
I
that
will say, Ray
if it's
Wise is a funny man.
yeah.
He is hilarious. Have you got him on like Instagram or anything?
Who's that? Sorry, who?
Ray Wise. Do you follow
Mm,
Ray
I
Wise?
haven't. No.
Oh, you're really missing out. His daughter's been doing little videos with him.
Yeah.
He is the funniest man. Yeah,
What did you say? Instagram he's on. He's on mainly, is it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, I'll
It's
check
on
that
his
out.
Instagram, but I think his daughter is filming them and just asking him questions, and
Yeah.
like they're edited little snippets, but they're very funny. He's hilarious.
He he was at, he has done a few fests, appearances and things like. He's done a few conventions and things, and he's always whenever there's a Q and A, he's very entertaining and he is really funny.
Yeah,
And he often
yeah.
breaks into that song, Mersey Dotes and Dozy Oats,
Hmm.
and all. He starts he starts you know being a bit of a showman, that kind of thing.
He's a true showman.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love him. He's one person that yeah, I think of all of the cast that I haven't met, he's right up the top. Yeah. Him and him and Grace, I think that would be lovely to meet them. Mm,
that would be awesome, wouldn't it? Yeah,
hmm.
seeing those two. Yeah.
Oh, I'm just very obsessed with that family, and I wish there'd been a spin-off either before or after season three of just okay, let's talk about the Palmer family while everyone's still alive and can act. Let's do this. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That would have been an intriguing thing.
yeah.
They got kind of close to that with on the box set. I don't know if you saw they did those two films of the three of them as the Palmers and then as
Mm,
themselves.
yeah,
And they did one in black and white and one in color, didn't they?
yeah,
And that gave a little sort of insight into where they were now, kind of
yeah.
like, but they were kind of like trapped between dimensions, it seems, doesn't it, in the story?
Mm,
What I remember, they kind of lost souls a bit, weren't they, really? Um,
yeah,
it was intriguing to sort of see what they were thinking and feeling, after as time went on, and it was it was quite an interesting little scene that was shot. David shot those, I think. Um, yeah, that was interesting. I could see that could have been like a little mini series of episodes or
yeah,
something. It would have
yeah,
worked, couldn't it? Just point a camera on them and just have them talking.
yeah. I would have taken it however it was prepared to
I would,
come.
yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating, and I always wondered. And season three kind of made me wonder even more. when she's, smashing the photo of Laura? Is it the anger that Laura's left her, or what happened with Laura has left her in this state of grief? Did she know? Did she blame Laura? Was she jealous of Laura? All of that kind of stuff. Like, it's odd in the first series, she's already, being drugged by the husband, chain smoking. She already seems like she knows, like, things are not perfect in that household. And it just makes me wonder. Yeah.
Yeah. Fire Walk with Me. I spoke to quite a number of people that were around the age you were when they first watched Twin Peaks, and I thought, well, how the hell did they get into a cinema at that age? But a number of them have said they went to see Fire Walk with Me when it came out. Were you one of them as well? No. Okay. Most people have seen it, strangely, at the age
I
of like,
don't know if it,
because it was
yeah,
18 certificate, I think, and most of them were underage and they got in there. I don't know how the hell they did it, but um,
I don't know if it hit the cinemas here. Like, the town that I live in's not huge.
yeah,
So I don't even know if it hit the cinema. If I was even aware of it, and I couldn't even tell you when I first watched it, in all honesty, but I know I wasn't young,
yeah.
because that would have been too much, I think. Yeah.
I didn't see it till after the fact. It was probably a couple of years after the fact, I think. I caught
Yeah.
up with it a bit late. Um, I would have been more than old enough to go to see it had I, but the thing is, I didn't even know it was on anywhere.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was
Yeah,
really,
not well, clearly neither. Yeah, I
you
didn't
know,
know.
it didn't seem to be unless you were in the know kind of thing,
Mm,
or you were a real serious film buff, which I really wasn't. And you
hmm.
get all the listings, magazines, and I probably would have found it, but I didn't do any of that, so I wasn't aware of it at all being shown at
Yeah,
a cinema or anywhere. And if it had been at a cinema, it wouldn't have been local to me because I think it didn't get a huge distribution. It wasn't shown at every single picture house. It would have only been at selected theatres.
yeah, that's what makes
That,
me think it
that's the
probably
kind of,
wasn't shown here.
because Lynch didn't
Mm,
get that kind of mass coverage. So I would have probably have had to travel a few miles to find a place that showed it if
hmm.
I been aware of it. But I wasn't. So, you know. But I saw it in the end. So that's the main thing. I caught up with it eventually, and I think I got it on VHS at some point, or you know,
Hmm.
or a very early DVD, or I can't quite remember how I saw it, but I saw it, and wow, I remember being quite taken aback by it. I was quite shocked by it.
Hmm. Oh, yeah.
The content in it,
And horrified.
it's still parts of it are very shocking. Actually, it still has an effect.
Mm,
All these years later, it still has quite an effect. Um, wow, some of those scenes. I mean, the thing about Fire Walk with Me, it didn't have the lightness and the humor so much as the TV series did. Definitely went a lot more darker, didn't it?
hmm.
But then again, if you're going to be tackling a subject like that, where you've got the last 5 days of a girl that's going to be murdered by her dad, and you know, and raped, and going down a terrible, descent of drugs and this, that, and the other, and you know, then it ain't going to be a barrel of laughs for 2 hours. You know,
Yeah. Not something to take the grandkids
no,
to,
it's
that's
not.
for sure.
It's not a popcorn movie. It's not really a popcorn and hot dog food movie, really, is it? Yeah.
It was more for me the above the convenience store stuff that I found. Not that everything else wasn't horrific in its own right, but that the sound around that. And even now when I hear it, I kind of go, oh, gives you the heebie-jeebies.
So much of it was odd, you know.
Mm,
Um, Also, like So yeah, season three, Millie. Um, just get onto that for a moment. Your first experience of that when that first episode drops, and the first time you set your eyes on it, it's scene one of the very first new Twin Peaks we've had in 25 years. You might as well say because it was essentially, wasn't it? Since Fire Walk with Me, it's the newest thing we had. So the first scene pops on the screen, and what are you thinking and feeling? Is it what sort of expectations did you have beforehand, or did you have any as to what you were expecting of it? Or did you just sort of just think, oh, let David take me wherever he wants to take me on this journey?
Well, maybe a combination of the two. I knew I wanted some resolve in certain areas. That never happened. Um, but I was prepared to just go along for the ride. And I think, too, Frank, it's a little bit like, everyone bags out certain parts of season two, shall we say. Evelyn Marsh, the yada yada, whatever. But in hindsight, you just wouldn't change a second of it. If someone came to me and said, right, now you get to take out all the bits that you don't like and have your own version of Twin Peaks, every single bit is still staying in there. And I think that's the same for season three. Like it isn't the direction I would have taken it in. I'm not David Lynch. That should be pretty apparent to people. So, I guess I'm grateful for it. Do I feel a bit dissatisfied at the end? Yeah. When I watch it again, do I get the same feelings? Yeah. And just the sheer joy of getting to watch it for the first time, and that like it felt like a miracle that it was even happening. Because of course you had all that stuff in between where David was not likely to be having anything to do with it, and the Twin Peaks without David Lynch is like blah blah blah. That whole movement that happened there, and everyone was probably a little bit on tenterhooks, like, oh my gosh, it's not going to happen, and then it was happening again. So we'd already gone through the emotional ringer as fans before it even started. But just the sound of the wind, the floor and the curtain, all of that kind of stuff. It was definitely hair standing on end. But then that seemed to keep happening for me. Like there's so many parts of those episodes where I had all like that, the hair on end kind of feelings. It wasn't always based around nostalgia. Sometimes it was when we were taken somewhere a bit new that we hadn't been before. Um, but in being completely honest, there were things that were just frustrating for me. That Cooper didn't become Cooper until the very end, and then wasn't Cooper for very long, if he ever was Cooper. He was there for the whole series, and we never got the Tibetan stone throwing or anything like that. That's a bit heartbreaking, and just like it was good to see all of the characters again, but they'd changed, the town had changed, the world around us had changed, and that's a true representation of life. But we didn't ever really get any answers. And I think probably the thing I found the most frustrating, no offense, David, I love you, but was just the scenes in the Roadhouse where we got to meet these random characters, and then you think, oh, I wonder how that's going to, but you never see them ever again. I would have rather heard a conversation between James and the girl that he had a crush on, or anybody else. We could have caught up with a lot of characters that way if we were just eavesdropping on what they were doing in the Roadhouse rather than having girls flipping burgers and scratching their armpits. Yeah, and all those characters were great, but
Yeah,
they amounted to nothing. They came from they came from nowhere and they went nowhere. So
yeah,
I just, as a fan, I would have liked to have pulled those resources of time and actually done something with them that helped me resolve whatever's going on for me. But that's just completely me. Again, if you ask me what I would change, it would be probably nothing,
yeah.
because it feels a little bit ungrateful to say otherwise. Mm.
But on the plus side, Millie, we did get Michael J. Anderson coming back as a tree and David Bowie as a teapot. So, I mean,
Yeah,
things
yeah,
aren't all that bad, really.
no. Yeah, yeah, there were just sometimes where you thought, oh, and I'm sure David operates in a way of he's very visual, and I feel like he gets this visual idea, and whether it makes sense or not, he wants it. He wants that visual idea represented in his films or in the TV series. So I think that's where a lot of things didn't make sense, or they do make sense, and they're just way too complicated for me to comprehend. Yeah,
I just saw your little doggy there behind there. Roaming around.
that's the senior one. He just walks into corners. Yeah.
Um, I know the feeling. Yeah, I do. I walk into corners quite a bit myself, actually. Yeah.
He's 16, so you'll
So I'm
just
more
see the
often in a state of
wonder.
confusion.
Yeah, it is. It's adorable, but the poor thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been fascinating speaking with you about these things, Millie. Yeah. Um, in terms of storylines, and this can be at any part of the Twin Peaks, that you really liked, any story strands or character strands that you really enjoyed. That can be for any season of the series. Anything that stuck with you?
Well, really just the Palmer family. I wanted more of them. Yeah. I want to know the dynamic. I want to know what happened. I want to know who knew what and when, and what the overall theory behind it was. Like, obviously, when you then go into season three and you've got the Diane and Agent Cooper, if he is Agent Cooper at that point, going to the motel. And it's clearly a ritualistic thing. They're clearly jumping timelines. There's clearly portals. There's clearly interdimensional beings. Um, the frog moth, all of that kind of stuff. Like you can see the symbolism and potentially what's going on, but I would love to know what the overall goal of it was, like the Laura in the golden orb being planted wherever she's planted. What does that mean? Is Carrie Page Laura? Was she the ball? All of that stuff, taking her home. What was the point of that? Was Sarah meant to be there? And if Sarah was meant to be there, is that I often wondered if Laura, and if it was a bloodline thing, whether if Laura and Bob procreated, if that was going to be, for lack of a better description, the birth of the Antichrist, and whether or not there was some sort of intervention going on with the birth of the Antichrist. But you never get any of that answered. But the occult symbolism and all of that kind of stuff is definitely there. So it's definitely, like the Babylon working and the sex rituals and all that kind of stuff, the numerology, the numbers, the towns, things happening in caves, like all of that's a thing, but I can't make sense of it. And to be fair, I haven't really gone back and gone, right, I'm going to write down every number and every symbol and then I'm going to look it up, because all that stuff is a bit over my head. But yeah, that whole mystery of what were they trying to subvert or stop from happening, that's what I'd like to know. Yeah. What was Cooper's mission? What was he trying to stop? That's what I would like to know.
Yeah, I think whatever he was trying, I think he messed up, I think. Um, and that he was trying to fix something that maybe, I don't know, did it need fixing? Um, uh, uh, I mean, we see Laura at the end of Fire Walk with Me with Cooper in the Red Room, and we see her fate there. And it seems as if she's finally found peace. That's the kind of feeling I get from the end of that scene, that final scene with the angel and everything.
Oh,
Um,
mm-hmm.
but when Cooper arrives on the scene in season three and meets Laura, um, two different scenarios happen, don't they? There's one scene where he's leading her by the hand through the woods, and she gets to where she's going, and the events unfold in that direction. And then there's the other bit where he thinks he's holding her. He looks, she's not there. She disappears, and it goes in another direction there.
Yeah, so he subverted her death,
Yeah,
who then plucked her and turned her into Carrie Page or wherever she went to then subvert her still being alive. And were they subverting somebody mating with her because of her bloodline?
yeah. Oh,
David, we want
you're opening up
answers.
a can of worms, Millie.
Well, I'd just like to know. And I probably will, like I said to you, I haven't watched it for a while, and I used to absolutely do at least a couple of times a year rerun. But see, they've taken it off all our streaming services. So if I want to watch it now, I have to get, and I know first world problems, I do have to find a DVD player in this house to watch it. And the only one's in the living room, and I never sit in the living room. So I haven't watched it for a while. If it was easy for me, I probably would have. But I think there will come a time now that yeah, the kids have moved out and I'm not a bachelor, but I'm childless and free of responsibility, that I probably will go back in and really look at all that symbolism and yeah, what it means, and try and unpack it a little bit just for my own sanity. But then again, just to experience it, it's been a couple of years, so I'll probably yeah, get that feeling all over again. Who knows?
I think you'll probably get a real renewed like thirst for it again. You'll get
Hmm.
drawn in again.
Oh, yeah, and look, I've
Maybe
got.
more so than the first time around.
Oh, that's
Because
right. I've got some
often
of the.
with the absent with time, when you're away from it for a while and you go back in,
Mhm.
often it actually is a better experience.
The heart grows fonder, they
Yeah,
say. But I
yeah,
do have like the soundtrack on my phone, and sometimes when I'm just playing music through a Bluetooth or whatever, it'll come on, and I'll be like, oh, and it'll be Laura's theme, and I'll be wistfully looking up into the sky like the good old days. But yeah, no, I still just at the end of the day feel really lucky that we got to find this thing that we loved, experience it fresh when we were young, waited all these years thinking it'd never happen again, and then there it was. So yeah, I don't necessarily need the answers. I want the answers.
yeah. I don't. Well, where David Lynch is concerned, I don't think we'll ever get all the answers for anything,
No,
really.
no, he
They'll
loves being mean, doesn't he?
look. You just get enough kind of sometimes just to get you to from a little bit of exposition from to get from there to there. But there's an awful lot that that never gets resolved again. So
Hmm.
you're never really quite satisfied, you
Yeah.
know.
And look, it never was going to be the same. I mean, the
No.
world has changed a lot. And like, even just in terms of general innocence, I find myself, Troy was the husband, was just watching a film about the 70s. And I was just looking at it going, that looks so cool. I wish it was still the 70s. Like, even just in the last couple of years, really, we are, the craziness is on steroids at the minute, really, isn't it? So, yeah, it was never going to be the same. And, even then, some of the actors had already passed and or didn't want to return. Gee, it would have been good to get Harry, wouldn't it? Yeah,
That was a shame. Yeah, that was a
yeah,
shame. Although I must admit, I think and sadly he's passed too. Robert Forster's passed too.
yeah. Oh, he
But
was he
but
was
I thought
amazing.
he was really great, you know.
Yeah, he didn't make you miss Harry too much, but I missed the friendship between Cooper and Harry. Like, I kind of, in my naivety, wished that it had been just straight up season one Twin Peaks with a new plot twist, and all the characters were the same, and off they went, and everything happened same, 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 which is probably, yeah, more my OCD than anything else. But yeah, I missed that little friendship. Because you do, when you see pictures of them together, you go, oh, that was so sweet. They really loved each other.
It's what they call it,
Yeah.
what they call a bromance, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, the original bromance.
Bromance,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
But they were very fond of one another,
Mm,
and and it also it was amazing in the timeline of the events of what was going on, how quick that developed as well. Pretty much from the moment they met one another in the hallway of of the coroner's
yeah.
place and stuff like that. They pretty much,
Yeah, it was just like a mutual trust straight away. Like,
yeah,
he obviously thought Cooper was a bit out there and had to explain a lot to him a lot of the time, but he trusted his instincts. And likewise, I think, yeah, Cooper trusted that he was good at what he did as well. And yeah, no, I miss them together. Yeah. And I'm going to say it. I miss Richard Tremaine. I know no one else loves him. I loved him. I think he's fantastic.
You,
He should
you
have
keep
been there.
saying no one loves him. I bloody adore him.
Oh, a lot
I
of
thought
people
he
go,
was
oh,
hilarious. He
yeah, I
was
know.
hilarious.
He was great.
Yeah.
And him and Andy together, I just loved that so much.
But him and Kimmy together was hilarious as well.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
he's trying to teach her how to, to use the knife and fork. It's the European way, and that grin, that big grin he's got, is just
Yeah.
so funny, man. So funny.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
arresting
he would have
smile he
been
had and
good.
everything. And
Hmm.
and when she's telling him at the diner, they're both at the diner at the table, and then she comes out with the fact that she's pregnant, and he's like, she just gives him a whammy there for that, and he's just there, he's in shock, and he
Hmm.
goes, "Preggers."
Yeah,
It
he
was
didn't handle
he
that
was
very
great.
gracefully.
He was brilliant. He was brilliant. And I one of the funniest scenes I think I remember with him was when they were doing the wine tasting.
Yeah.
That was so funny. And Kimmy was just
Did he have the
was really
bandage on his nose
unimpressed
at
with it
that
all.
point? Did he have the bandage on his nose at that point? Had he already been bitten by the
Oh, he had the pine weasel
pine
bitten, isn't
weasel?
it? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That was another funny thing as well, the pine weasel.
Yeah, I can just hear him say, "Oh, Andrew," every time Andy did something stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There
yeah,
are
that was cool, Richard.
And Andy butts in or something. And there are also, what was it, red wines and was it rosé or fizzy wine or something? I can't remember what he says, but Andy's really proud of himself for knowing that.
Yeah, yeah,
And Rich is
yeah,
going,
that's right.
"Okay, Andy, thank you." Moving on.
Oh, too cute.
But
Actually, I don't. I'm trying to think if there are any actual funny moments
what in season three?
in season three.
Well, I suppose there was some comedic moments with Dougie in
If
there.
people are very stressed, Bradley, that was kind of funny.
Oh yeah, that was a funny line. Yeah. Also,
Hmm.
the up to a point, it was funny with the Polish accountant when he started opening fire
Yeah.
at Chantel and Hutch because they parked in his space. It escalated very
And,
quickly. I thought.
and I suppose a lot of the stuff with Dougie was humorous to a point, but you were kind of, I don't know, that seemed to be a bit squashed by the fact that you were impatient. You just wanted him to bloody get back to Cooper and hurry up. Yeah. Yeah.
I think season two probably had the most humor out of all of it. It had
Yeah.
a lot of comedy characters that were coming in and stuff.
Yeah.
These little side characters that ever popped in every now and again gave this sort of comedic or light touches to things, didn't they? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
I
Although you
think,
did have
yeah,
first season was Andy hitting the boards at Leo's house. That
yeah,
was probably one of the funniest. Yeah.
yeah.
And even just little things with Lucy, like when they're doing the Tibetan, I don't know what it's actually called, but the rock throwing.
The rock throwing, yeah.
Um, and Cooper gives her instructions to write on the board or whatever, and she just says, "I'm excited." And just the way she says she's excited, I don't know, it always amuses me. She's just funny in real life
She
anyway,
is,
Kimmy. But
yeah.
yeah, she's
Um,
hilarious.
but some of the things she come out with were hilarious to me.
Yeah,
It was just the way she delivered lines
yeah.
with that squeaky high voice, just made
Hmm.
everything that she said more impactful. Like it
And
just sounded more funny.
I wish I'd back in the day because I think there was a thing where you could get her, uh, like your voicemail would be Kimmy at the reception at yeah. But I think by the time I realised that was a thing, I didn't have like a landline anymore or whatever. You couldn't get it anymore. It was like, oh bugger, that would have been really cool. Now you can get what's that thing? Cameos. Yeah, yeah. Just get it a cameo you won.
Imagine that, yeah, leaving like little voice messages or something. Yeah.
Hmm.
I'm sorry, he's not available at the moment. You know, when
Yeah.
yeah. Please do call later. I can't do her voice. I'm just
No,
it.
it's pretty
No,
distinct.
it's quite a unique voice, really. Yeah.
Hmm.
But yeah, she's and isn't it really funny when you get all the actors at certain when they're at events and stuff? There's this funny through thing that happens constantly with them. They all do an impression of David Lynch. It always comes up. They
Oh,
always go. They all have a go at it.
oh, I haven't.
This is
I've
quite a
heard them
common.
do it
It's
on.
quite a common
Yeah.
occurrence amongst the cast. They all do. They
Hmm.
all impersonate him.
Yeah.
They'll tell a story and they'll do his voice
Well,
or
he's kind of a
attempt at his
character
voice.
in
They
his
go,
own right, isn't
well,
he?
David called me into the office and he went, "Sit down, Ray," and
Yeah.
and
It's
then start
you.
doing.
It's always been you.
Yeah, start doing the. They all do the bloody voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and that's really quite amusing when you hear them do that, you know.
Hmm.
But every one of them that does that, it's quite funny that. Yeah, it's interesting.
It
So
was
they,
interesting at the event that they had in Melbourne here, just sort of it was just a really sweet moment, Frank, where they're all on the panel and Dana's sitting next to Cheryl. And I think he fills her glass up or something. He was very protective of her on that day. So the signing was typically everyone had their own space at the theatre. Um, but Dana and Cheryl were together, and he was very, yeah. So I don't know if she gets anxious or if she gets mobbed by people, which is also quite possible, and just wanted him to stand next to her. But there was a very caring, it was quite a sweet little caring thing going on between them that was quite cute. Yeah.
that's interesting. Did
Mm.
you find her because I've been fortunate to meet her I've met her once as well. Um and when she came to London about 10 years back now at one of the fests, she came over. It was just her and Dana, funny enough, that came over. It was just the two of them for the event. And so you had a lot of time with them because there was only two guests. So when we were up, going up to the signing table, they spent an awful long time talking to you, talking to each person. It was not, you weren't like shunted off, like when you go to some of these big events, you might get 10 seconds, shake the hand, next, like that. But it wasn't like that with that at all. With
Mm.
her and Dana, it was a completely different experience. They were both really took the time and she fixed her eyes on you and made you feel like the only person in the room that she was talking to. Um,
Yeah, she's
she
really
has that kind of effect. It's
she's warm. She's
very
very
warm,
warm.
very
Yeah.
warm, very empathetic, very really interested in what you've got to say as well as a person. She's quite interested
Well,
in you, and yeah.
yeah. Just what I and look, I'm sure she doesn't regret ever doing the show or whatever. Um, but I know that there's people in those lines that are there to see Cheryl Lee because they absolutely relate to the character of Laura Palmer in the worst possible way. So she would be dealing with lots of disclosures and people thanking her for helping them get through their own sexual abuse trauma, da da da, which uh, is kind of an odd thing because she doesn't survive, like she doesn't come out the other side and become this better person or anything. But maybe that's more of a reflection of maybe people can't separate Cheryl Lee and Laura Palmer a lot of the time. So they see that she's at peace now as Cheryl Lee and they think, I don't know, I can't quite explain it, but she would get a lot of trauma dumped at her feet every one of those events. So she's probably very well not I wouldn't say that it's fake, but she knows that she has to make eye contact and make a connection and make that person feel good and then move them along. Otherwise, she's going to be nursing them for the next half an hour while they cry their eyes out. But she was very warm. She was when we were in Melbourne. It was a cold day, but she was wearing this beautiful, big, long velvet coat, and it was sort of I was kind of say an emerald kind of green color, but I could be misremembering. And when I hugged her, she was all soft and squishy, but you just feel weird. Like I feel like if I was a celebrity and people were in my space all the time, I wouldn't want to deal with it. And I was very conscious every person that I went to that there were 50 people behind me that also wanted to have their moment with them. So I kept it fairly short and sharp. I did manage to get permission to contact Sabrina about getting some dolls over for David and some of the other actors and things. So that was pretty good. But outside of that, I was probably feeling a little bit rushed and like I just wanted to get out of there because I don't know, like it's just a weird thing. Like it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, but I was still a bit not starstruck, but just very mindful that they don't want to talk to me as much as I would like to talk to them. And I don't even know what to say to these people. I don't know you. You're not actually Laura Palmer. You're a whole other person that's had many years of life after all of that. So I'm sure they're very grateful to their fans and everything. But yeah, she was really warm. Dana was like just puppy energy. That's all I can say. Just a lot of puppy energy. Bouncing all over the place, happy as, but very protective of her, which I thought was very sweet. And everybody else was kind of somewhat as I thought they were going to be, apart from Sabrina. I thought Sabrina would be all business, no, like softness to her, but she's really genuine. I think there's no mucking around with Sabrina, but it's not in a nasty way. Yeah. So that was a pleasant surprise. Yeah, I enjoyed that. And just never thought that would ever happen, Frank. Like, seriously,
No.
yeah, couldn't find another Twin Peaks fan all those years ago. And now here we are all,
Yeah.
hovering in this auditorium waiting to see Laura Palmer.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
extraordinary, isn't it? Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, so I think what we'll do now, Millie, is ask you, we'll bring the straw list to a close, and I'll ask
Hmm.
you one final question that I ask everyone. So here we go with this one. Before we say goodbye, this is last question for you. Millie, why do you love Twin Peaks?
It's a second home. Yeah, that's all. That'll do.
That was straight to the point.
Oh, well, just the whole nostalgia of it, that I've watched it every year, that I've now met some of these people. We've all been able to be a part of it in a bigger way than we were initially as fans, whether it's just that you've got a bigger group of fans that you talk to now, or you've connected with some of the actors, or yeah. But yeah, just it's nostalgia plus for me, and it does sort of feel like a second home. Yeah. Yeah.
That's lovely. Millie, thank you very much for joining me.
Oh, thank you, Frank.
It's been absolutely wonderful speaking to you, catching
Likewise.
up with you after such a long time too, and getting a chance to look at your lovely dolls again. Your little creations are great, and to share them with everyone else who's watching too, because many people may never have seen these before. So it's really nice for you to do that, you know.
Oh, I wish I still had all of them, but no, other people wanted them too. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you guys for watching too, and we will be back with some more of these episodes to come. So until then, I will leave you with these immortal words, as you can see there. Meantime, we'll see you in the trees.